I'd say start small. Pick one or two of these metrics that are simple to track, build a steady rhythm, and then let the team build momentum, because, change sticks when people feel capable, not overwhelmed.
Welcome to Driving Growth, the go-to-market podcast for traditional B2B businesses that are looking to build systems to create predictable revenue growth. In short, turning their company into a revenue factory. I'm your host, Steve Whittington, president of Roadmap, and a believer in one simple truth. Sustainable growth is not an accident, it is engineered, and my company, Roadmap, is a builder of go-to-market systems. Joining me today is Christie Hewlko, the lead researcher behind our 2025 Go-To-Market Readiness Index. Now, what is the Go-To-Market Readiness Index? Well, let me explain, because this is what we're going to be talking about today. The Go-To-Market Readiness Index is research that we commissioned to see how mature businesses are in their go-to-market function. Okay, so we are assessing how their sales plan is, how their ideal client profile is mapped, if they have buyers committees. We're going through all the different characteristics that you need in a fully mature go-to-market function within your organization, and you're getting a score and you're getting readiness factor. And this report then comes to individuals that participate in it so they can use it, pun intended, as a roadmap to figure out their next steps for their growth. Okay, so Christie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Now, I know you're super excited about this. You talked to dozens of companies. Like we're like a little. I think at this time we're a little south of 50, but we're going to get to 75 that we get into this batch of research. And when you look at the data, what was the biggest surprise for you that came out of this?
Well, I think the biggest surprise was just how similar the gaps were across every company. So regardless of their industry or size, the same types of themes kept showing up. But the other thing that really stood out to me was how many leaders had, immediate insights or aha moments just from taking the diagnostic. We ended up adding an entire immediate insights section to the report, because so many companies uncovered small, easy to implement quick wins they just hadn't seen before, or lost sight of. These insights were usually things like running a few basic metrics with the numbers they already had, writing down a process that everyone's been doing from memory, or talking to a few of their current customers to really understand what they're doing well and what they could do better. So they weren't big, scary projects. They're overlooked, high-impact improvements.
Right. Okay. So whether it was like a $2 million company or a $50 million company, and the cohort of our research was for the most part weighted between like the 5 million to a little under $100 million in revenue organizations, the same kind of things seem to be missing, or was there differences in the revenue?
No, it seemed really, it's not about size, it was about discipline. So, many companies, hadn't taken the time to document their processes or look at their data in a structured way. They've been relying on experience and gut feels, and that has worked historically, but until it does work, it can work until you try to scale.
Right. Yeah, organizational knowledge stuck in somebody's head is not scalable. And it becomes a problem if that person leaves or if you're trying to add people in to grow, right? So talking about what's missing in most of the companies, you said they're executing without documentation. So why do you think these leadership teams resist, or maybe it's just delay codifying their go-to-market strategy or function?
I think often it just feels overwhelming. People think about, documenting their GTM system or the go-to-market system means creating a massive, perfect playbook. They assume their CRM, will magically fix everything for them. In reality, I think most leaders I spoke with are ready to move, but their teams are a step behind. So every business has its own culture and pace. So instead of trying
Right.
to do everything all at once, I'd say start small. Pick one or two of these metrics that are simple to track, build a steady rhythm, and then let the team build momentum because, change sticks when people feel capable, not overwhelmed.
And one of the things that seemed to stand out that wasn't documented all the time for a large part was like true customer understanding, the ideal, like who you ideally sell to, your ideal customer profile, and then the buyers committees within that. Like 43% of companies have a defined ICP is what the research sort of poked out. And then only 30% have documented buyer committees. So what's the consequence of not having that in place?
Well, how can any, go-to-market motion succeed if you don't know who you're selling to? You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
a lot of companies in our study were, like legacy businesses or, companies that grew up, having one or they were created basically to serve one or two large clients, or they dominated it in a niche market.
Mhm.
Now, as a lot of them are ready to expand or hand leadership over to the next generation, they're finding that they've never had to actually define who their best customers are. So, without an ICP, you end up trying to sell to everyone, which can be successful sometimes, but also very wasteful. So, the good news is you usually already have the answers. Talk to your existing customers, ask why they buy from you, and that feedback becomes the backbone of your go-to-market system that evolves with your business.
Yeah, 100%. So we got all these companies, they're executing, they're running campaigns, they're not running campaigns, they got reps, they're hiring, but essentially without a map. So, the things that guide a map are metrics. And we did find that companies are tracking pipeline and win rates, but there's a lot that they're not looking at. So, Christy, what's missing there?
Well, I think a lot of companies are, still relying on instinct, or on habits that worked 5 years ago but don't work now. Some are doing a bunch of things because they think they should, but they're not measuring what's actually working. So, without a map, activity gets confused with progress.
Right, right. Okay. So let's unpack that for a sec. So they're getting momentum, they're moving forward, but they don't know how efficiently they're moving forward. They don't know how they can put force to the process because they haven't been tracking some of the other metrics that they can do that. Okay. And in some cases, I was talking to recent clients that I challenged them on their best customers, and they fully admitted that they don't know if they're actually profitable with their best customers or not. So they don't know even how fast they might be sinking, right? Like get more of them, but they actually make us lose money. Which is, this is just stuff that happens as you get busy, as opposed to focusing on what's important. So when you look at the basic metrics that people are tracking, why do you think there's a drop off from these truly insight driven metrics that can aid decision making? What's your thoughts there?
Well, I think I have to give a lot of companies credit. They're many had way more data than I expected. So, I think the challenge really is about education and digestion. So, a lot of
Hmm.
leaders I spoke with, are really excited about the metrics, which is great, but we try to roll out everything all at once, right? So, the team gets overwhelmed with that type of thing. So to use data well, you need to introduce it slowly. You need to connect it to the decisions, and you need people to understand like the why behind the metric.
Right. Okay. So they don't have a roadmap. They're not tracking a lot of all the stuff they could be tracking. Then they're selling, and we're getting into the sales process. And you know, do they have a sales process? Are reps using the sales process? What's the numbers around that part of the go to market function?
Well, I think only about a third followed a consistent structure. So, the rest seem to be like improvising and, not because they're rogue. It was usually because the process isn't documented or it's not reinforced. So,
Hmm.
sales discipline requires a regular cadence, clarity, and time to normalize new habits. We often want quick wins, but the fastest way forward is to bring the team along with you kind of step by step.
Okay, so what we've got is these informal processes that reps are just improvising on the fly. So what's the lowest effort, high impact first step a company can do to make a
Documented.
structure? Right.
So
Sure.
documented.
Okay.
It's fully within your control to do that. So document the process, and then operationalize it within your CRM. That creates consistency, transparency, and coaching opportunities.
Right. And then have, as you said, that regular cadence, like weekly pipeline reviews, going through the CRM and making sure people are following the stages, enhancing the stages, figuring out how to remove friction from the process, where you can add force, that sort of stuff. Right. So, so that being said, if you don't have a structured sales process and you're saying document it and then put it in your CRM, how many folks actually have a CRM?
I think the number was like 76% have a CRM. So,
Good.
that
Yeah.
that was pretty eye-opening. And but I think the next question is, are they actually using it?
Right. Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So my answer to that is no, not fully, but I think that that's okay. I think based on an organization's go-to-market maturity, most companies aren't ready for a full CRM or to use every feature of the CRM. First you need to really look at your culture and the data foundation first, your processes first. People need support, champions, wins, and leadership buy-in. You have to roll this out in phases. Otherwise, you just, speed up dumb faster.
Speed up, dumb faster. I love it. Okay. So they got the tool in place, but they have to continue to build the habit and slowly implement it at their pace, their culture. Yeah, makes sense. Totally. Now, we always feel like there's a lot of focus on getting new customers, and which I get. Like if you want to grow, you got to figure out how you do your acquisition. But a place that is forgotten about is in B2B that have reoccurring revenue is the retention of your existing block of business and then the expansion of that. And I feel that that is a very big blind spot with the folks that we work with that haven't really thought through that enough or given that enough resources to be able to make sure that it's going to be optimized. What did you find in the research?
Yeah, that was a big blind spot for almost everyone. And I think, for years we've focused on rewarding sales teams for bringing in new customers. So we've largely ignored the ones who already trust us and can be doing more business with us. If your customers already love you, that's your lowest cost revenue growth. Plus, like structured onboarding is, again, another thing that's fully within your control. And it's one of the quickest ways to show, professionalism, reduce risk, and empower your internal team with a repeatable playbook. So get started off with your customers on the right foot.
Right, right. Okay. So that's a bunch of the high level gaps. Any other ones you want to highlight, or those are the kind of the big talking points?
Those are the big features that came out of it. Again, teams have been focused on winning customers and going after them, but it's because that's what we've told them to do over the years. Our compensation for reward acquisition over expansion. So I think one of the
Right.
things people can do is change those incentives to change that behavior.
Sure. So we had some folks that were low maturity, medium maturity, but there was a bunch that were hitting it out of the park, like best in class. So what does that look like in this group? What are the high performers doing right?
Well, I think going through this, like a great go-to-market system is surprisingly simple. It's data informed. It starts with your clear understanding of your ideal customer profile, your ICP, and then everything else. So your sales process, your marketing efforts, your onboarding of your internal teams and your customers, and your metrics all ladder up to that. So, the best in class teams, regardless of size, share the goals. They embrace transparency, and they value progress over perfection. They were curious, and they were willing to challenge themselves, and they made, learning part of their culture.
Okay. And now, did you find that it was bigger companies that had like a more mature go-to-market system?
For sure. I mean, they had a lot more tools and systems and processes, but that wasn't always the case. Some of the smaller organizations actually had, a much more defined go-to-market system.
So you don't necessarily need a huge team or a huge budget. You just need those cultural attributes to be able to create an excellent go-to-market system.
Exactly. Small teams can actually implement a lot of these things faster. So once you understand your data, get your alignment with your team, you operationalize it with habits and simple systems. It's the shared goals, the clear roles, a culture that celebrates clarity and collaboration. And most of the companies we spoke with are the perfect size to do this really well.
Okay. All right. So let's put this on the court for a second, or put the rubber to the road here. So if I'm a CEO or a VP listening to this right now, and I'm realizing that my go-to-market is maybe not as tight as I would like it, and maybe I would admit that it's a bit of a mess. What's the one thing I should do this month, if based on what you've looked at?
I think you could jump straight to the immediate insights section of the report if you read it. I think there will be at least one or two things that will resonate with almost any CEO or BP right now. You'll find one thing that you can tackle right away. It's as simple as writing down your sales stages, reviewing how leads are tracked in your CRM, checking if your pipeline stages make sense, or just talking to a few customers to understand, why they love you. And I think the biggest thing is just to don't overcomplicate it. Just pick one thing and get going. And another thing is if you qualify, I would say take the Go-To-Market Readiness Index yourself. It's a genuinely fun and eye-opening way to spend 15 or 30 minutes, and you get to talk to me.
Fair enough. Yeah. So like what we've seen with all these different reports is there is almost, no matter the company, there's some low lift, high impact action that can be done. Like, as you said, documenting your ideal client profile, defining your sales stages, just simple stuff to put attention to that everybody can get a lift out of. Low effort, high lift. So you don't need like a great big 50 slide strategy. You just need a little bit of clarity.
No. Like, if you know me, I'd love nothing more to work on a 50-page slide deck for someone. Love that. But, it's speed of decision making and an iterative approach to your go-to-market system is what wins.
Okay. Christie, thank you so much for your insights. Thanks for doing this work.
All right. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Steve. And I hope people, check out the report.
Now, for those of you that are listening, if your sales feel stuck, if your marketing isn't landing or customers aren't staying, it's time to stop guessing and start building systems. Go to our website at www.weareroadmap.com/GTM Readiness Index and get the copy of this report. You'll be able to see trends and immediate insights that you can apply to your business. Also, if you are interested in getting your own report on your own organization's readiness, you can apply to become part of this ongoing research. If you've liked what you've heard, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We have new episodes dropping the first and third Wednesday of every month. I'm Steve Whittington. Thanks for listening. Keep building your revenue factory one brick at a time.